West Ham stretched our unbeaten run in the Premier League to 4 matches with a hard-fought draw against Manchester City last weekend. And we boast a remarkable set of results against European-chasing sides recently. And it would be difficult not to forget the astonishing late equaliser and comeback against Tottenham in a hurry. And, of course, we've taken maximum points from encounters with Leicester and Wolverhampton Wanderers this season. But now West Ham travel to Anfield to face Premier League champions and Jurgen Klopp's Reds, Liverpool, who have a lot of injury problems themselves. My name is Anton. Welcome back to West Ham United. Keep your comments coming in. Keep the thumbs up. Of course, subscribe to the channel. Still, Liverpool, come on, what's your thoughts?
Well, you know, if there was a good time to play Liverpool, I reckon it's now. We're on the up. You know, they will do well. We know that they'll be there or thereabouts for the championship again this season. And but with their injuries, I mean, Van Dijk is a big miss for them. I think Fabinho's now out. Oh, don't know about Salah. Maybe Jack, when he comes on, will be able to give us an update on that. What better time is there for us to be playing the champions?
Absolutely.
I'm that confident.
Oh, wow. Love this set of confidence there, mate. Listen, before we go into talking West Ham and Liverpool and bringing in Jack, of course, we've been doing that a lot this season. Today, we received really disappointing news, sad news today, that World Cup winning England midfielder Nobby Stiles unfortunately passed away at the age of 78 after a long illness. The former Manchester United player, he had prostate cancer and advanced dementia. Stiles is a 7th member of that famous England team that started the 1966 World Cup final against West Germany to die after captain Bobby Moore, Alan Ball, Ray Wilson, Gordon Banks, Martin Peters and Jack Charlton. He was born in Manchester. He gained himself an MBE in the year 2000. He won 28 caps for England and played a key role in neutralising Portugal's star Eusebio in the 1966 semi-final before another fine showing in the dramatic 4-2 extra-time win over West Germany. Of course, we all remember the very famous image of him with no teeth. At club level, Stiles won 2 English titles and the 1968 European Cup during an 11-year career with Manchester United. He made almost 400 appearances for Man United between 1960 and 71, going on to play for Middlesbrough and Preston North End before retiring in 1975. He moved into management with Preston before 1977, between 1977 and 81, and then he had a brief and unsuccessful spell in charge at West Bromwich Albion during the 85-86 season. In 1989, he was asked to return to Manchester United's youth team set up as a coach, and he helped develop players such as legends for the club, Ryan Giggs and Gary Neville. So, you know, another legend's gone still. Rest in peace to Nobby, and I hope, you know, anyone, depending on what age you are, if you're old enough and fortunate enough to have been around at the time when England won the World Cup, you'll know a lot about him. But if you're a younger generation, make sure you go and look at the you know, there's famous videos of him dancing around that park, the Nobby dance, etc. So yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's a good tribute. It doesn't matter what channel we're fans of. When it comes to legends of the past, and he will remain a legend because he's one of the few Englishmen that won a World Cup, and not, there's only including Jimmy Greaves, there's only a dozen of them that can say they've done that. And he was a legend, and he was an interesting character because in today's game, he probably wouldn't last on the pitch for more than 5 minutes because he was a bit of a ball breaker. He was that kind of player that, I grew up, watching players throughout the 70s and, looking at some really hard players who, they put their leg in, they put a good tackle in every now and again, and they wouldn't last 5 minutes on the pitch now with the way that the game's become almost non-touch football. And he was put into the England team to do a job, and he did a great job. I mean, a bit of an unsung hero in a way, because you always look at the players that are the flair players, the players that scored the goals, the Martin Peters, the Jimmy Greaves, and etc. Bobby Moore being the stylish centre back and all that. But players like Stiles just did his job. Came on, did his job. He broke up the play. He knew how to break up the play, how to disrupt the flow of a game. And sad, very sad.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So, like I said, rest in peace to him and his family, and he will forever be remembered as a legend for everyone who supports England and anyone really in the football world. But without further ado, Stell, let's get back onto our preview and let's bring in Jack, our Liverpool fan. Jack, good evening, and how are you, my friend?
Not too bad, mate. Thank you very much for having me on, lads. Really looking forward tonight. And
pleasure, mate.
Thoughts to Bobby and his family as well. Obviously, before my generation anyway, but anyone that wins the World Cup and cracking, everyone's seen documentaries from the 66 World Cup anyway. Cracking bunch of lads and done the country proud anyway. But thoughts with his family.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Thanks for that. That's really cool. Yeah, cheers, Jack. Well, listen, Liverpool are unbeaten in 8 Premier League games against West Ham since losing both the meetings, though, in 2015-16 season. West Ham obviously last won there 3-0 at Anfield in August 2015. I mean, West Ham fans remember that very well. But that's our only victory in our past 47 league games away at Anfield. Jack, how are you feeling about West Ham coming to your ground? And what's your thoughts?
Very intrigued, mate. It'd be interesting to see how obviously David Moyes will approach the game. It'd be a very difficult task. I've watched a couple of games of views this season. I've been very impressed. Obviously, Miguel Antonio being hugely impressed. I think he's surprised a lot of people outside of obviously West Ham with the way in which he plays his football. It's a huge boost for Liverpool for him not playing, especially obviously we'll talk about team selection a bit later. But I think I'm very intrigued to see how David Moyes does approach it. Obviously, we had you on Anton on the pre-match show last night on the channel. But I'm very, very excited for this game. Hopefully, it's just a cracking game of fuzzy.
Yeah, it really is, mate. I mean, it's been an interesting season for really everyone all round, hasn't it? I mean, for one thing in particular that I'm noticing is that Liverpool are conceding goals. And that's something I don't think you're massively used to. What's going on there? I mean, apart from obviously the obvious that recently players are getting injured, but prior to that, you didn't have the injuries. What's going on there?
Teams are just getting at Liverpool. I think no team is invincible. Obviously, a lot of teams got at Manchester City last season. And I think Aston Villa, if you get at Liverpool, obviously due to how far our full-backs do push, and obviously the high line in which we have adapted this season, obviously the back end of last season as well. I think if teams have a go at the big teams, like Liverpool as well, like Villa had, the Villa game was an absolute freak. Fair play to Aston Villa, played fantastic. Liverpool, everything that they could have done wrong, went wrong that game. I think Villa had 3 deflected goals, and obviously the big miss and the big question mark over this season now is how well Liverpool will adapt to not having Virgil van Dijk at the back. Obviously, Manchester City very heavily missed Laporte last season, and obviously 2 big players for both teams that are big presences in the defence anyway. Virgil van Dijk, everyone knows how good he is, but it's how well he marshals this Liverpool back line. And prior to his signing, there was question marks over Liverpool's defence. Obviously, we got Ali between the sticks. He's an absolute legend himself anyway in the making, but I tell you, I'm very intrigued to see how Liverpool do go this season, mate. Obviously, Fabinho, he is going to be missing against the West Ham anyway. He's going to be a big miss. His hamstring tear didn't look too bad. Looks like to be in about 2 to 3 weeks. He will be out missing anyway, but it wasn't too bad. But obviously, we had the Williams, the young centre back anyway, played against Midtjylland. He was playing non-league football last season in the 7th tier of English football. So it's a big test for them. Obviously, West Ham have got the notable young players and Declan Rice and all those lads anyway. But it's going to be interesting. I've put him in my starting lineup anyway for tomorrow. But due to the way in which West Ham, if they do have a go at Liverpool and be solid at the back, like Aston Villa did, I think it'd be very interesting. It will make and break him as a player. Obviously, we had Trent play a very famous game at Old Trafford, and he got absolutely terrorised by Martial and Rashford. But this could be the making of this young lad. I think Jurgen Klopp, he trusts his young players. Obviously, he's very favourable at Dortmund, and at Liverpool, he gives young players a chance. And this lad Williams, he played very well against Midtjylland, but West Ham a completely different kettle of fish in terms of quality as well. No discredit to the Danish side anyway, but it will be interesting to see how he does cope up against obviously the likes of Ben Rama, Haller, and obviously Jared Bowen as well.
Yeah, I mean, can I ask a question? It's probably a bit too early to ask this, and it might sound like a bit of a silly question, but do you think teams, they've seen the way Liverpool play, the style, their approach to a game. Do you think teams are beginning to finally come to terms with, you mentioned about Man City and how teams are now going at Man City and getting some results. Do you think teams are doing kind of the same with Liverpool? They're thinking, right, we know the style of play that Liverpool are going to have. So if we adapt our game to make them worry more about us rather than the other way around, do you think that's the sort of thing that maybe could impact on Liverpool's season?
Yeah, most definitely, mate. I think obviously football managers in general, like Guardiola's had to adapt his style of football in the Premier League. Klopp, he said himself after the end of last season, Liverpool are going to have to develop the game. I think every team in the Premier League, if you want to be successful, like we've seen for Manchester United all those years ago, winning title after title, Fergie adapted his teams and adapted the way in which he played, kept his 4-4-2, but he freshened players in and out of the squads. And Jurgen Klopp's done that this season as well, obviously bringing in the likes of Diogo Jota anyway from Wolves. I think he's going to be the next big superstar in which Jurgen Klopp does develop in this forward line anyway. But I think similar to in terms of tactics, Liverpool have the last couple of games went to a 4-2-3-1, and then it's been a lot more defensively solid. We've sort of obviously been conceding a couple of goals, but not as frequent as obviously playing three in midfield, and it just gives the likes of Trent and obviously the young lads at the back, Gomez and Robinson as well, a bit more defensive solidity, really, which we would need. I think any team in the Premier League that had a player of the level of Virgil van Dijk, everyone would miss a player of that quality. So it will be interesting, mate. And Jurgen Klopp it's a question mark on his management as well, which is great. Obviously, these great managers anyway, they have to be developing different formations, different tactics, and that's how good the Premier League is. We've seen Aston Villa beat us this season. Obviously, we got beat by Watford last season. They went down, but it's detriment to obviously how good the Premier League is.
We softened you up for Watford last season when we got our draw.
Yeah, no,
we didn't get a draw, did we? No,
but we turned up.
Nearly,
we turned up, and then Watford did finish the job.
Yeah, it was a nail-biting game. That one, I went to that one. Yeah.
Another question before Anton carries on. Do you like the fact that Klopp has a lot of trust in young players? I admire that, and like we kind of talk about it at West Ham. He's bringing through young players, but it takes him a while. It takes him a long time. It's like, I remember when we bought Jared Bowen, it took him, I can't remember how many games it was before he actually got his full debut. And Moyes is a bit of a easy does it. We're not going to let you play just yet. We'll give you a little sniff and so on. And you've mentioned Ben Rama, and we'll get on to West Ham in a minute, but I would be surprised if Ben Rama gets more than 5-10 minutes tomorrow,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Do you like the fact that Klopp likes the young players?
Yeah, that's why he was brought into the club, mate. Obviously, I mentioned at the top of the show, he's managed Dortmund anyway. But it's refreshing, and especially in today's climate, you can't be expecting football managers to keep on spending money. You have got to develop from your youth academy. What's the point of having youth academies up and down the UK and the Premier League clubs?
Yeah.
Especially
So true.
Trent. Yeah, like obviously West Ham, probably one of the most famous academies. Obviously bringing it through the likes of obviously Rio Ferdinand, Lampard, and the list goes on. But I think that's in terms of if Moyes is going to stay there for a long time. I think he will be looking to bring in young, hungry players. That's what you want. It's all right spending 30-40 million pound on a player, but if you haven't got the hunger, like a Trent or obviously Declan Rice as well, these young players, you've got more hunger. No disrespect to obviously the players coming into the Premier League, but there's nothing better than seeing a local lad coming through your system and playing in your first team squad. Yeah. Obviously, we had that with Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher anyway, but we're seeing that with obviously Curtis Jones. He could possibly get a starting lineup for against West Ham as well, but it is no better feeling than seeing a local lad. He understands what it is to be a supporter. Absolutely. And he'll run through with a brick wall for you.
Yeah. You've got obviously Jordan Henderson. I mean, he played a bit of time in the European football in midweek, didn't he? And do you see him starting for the game at the weekend or?
Yeah, he's 50-50, but he's looking like he will potentially get a start in the starting lineup anyway. It's where he does play. Obviously, he has for one fixture last season. He played centre back, so. Yeah, be interesting to see, but I don't think Klopp will go with Hendo centre back. I'd be very surprised if he does, but I think he will play. I'll put Hendo and Gini in the midfield for Liverpool against West Ham anyway. But it'd be interesting. It's the options that Liverpool have got last season and this season now. That's what Liverpool missed all those seasons gone. We need to adapt certain styles of football. Obviously, West Ham is very physical and good on the ball, so I think Henderson he gives that grittiness in terms of midfield, and Gini, he's very physical himself, even though he's quite small, but he's good, very good presence in the air.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about your forward line, though. Your forward trio, Firmino, Mane and Salah. I mean, some stats for everyone who's watching. Mane has scored in each of his last 4 games against West Ham and has 5 goals and 3 assists in 6 Premier League matches for Liverpool versus West Ham. And then you move on to Mo Salah. I mean, let me just bring this little video up to show you what he's been done against West Ham in recent years. I mean, he's got 6 goals, 2 assists in the 6 top flight games against West Ham this season. So, you know, again, as West Ham fans, we look at all these stats and worry when you come up against the top quality that you've got going forward, because we know how sometimes West Ham defence can play. What are they firing on all cylinders this season, or are they taking a bit of time? What's going on up top for Liverpool?
Mo is absolutely on fire. Like, he's ridiculous. I think we've got the Mo that come in and broke those records anyway. He's been one of the quickest players to 100 goals in the Premier League. Everyone gives him a lot of stick for not passing, but his assist tally as well in his career at Liverpool is phenomenal. And obviously Bobby Firmino, yes, every rival fan outside of Liverpool anyway, it goes, but he's not a goal scorer. He's more like a creator, but he does chip in now and again. But Liverpool's success has been down to obviously all the players, but obviously Mohamed Salah and Mane. They are 2 players that have really elevated Liverpool to the top of European football and the top of the Premier League. But Mo, he's played fantastic. Mane, those 2 are players when it's not going your way in a certain game. If you win a game 1-0 or 2-0, it's either going to be one of those 2 anyway. And you'd be very surprised if a defender does step up, obviously with Trent, potentially score a free kick and that, but they are the 2 big main men for Liverpool. And Diogo Jota as well, I have mentioned, he has got brought in, obviously mentioned with Stiles at the beginning, like he's talking about Jürgen and obviously David Moyes bringing in players when, not straight away, but obviously if you do sign a player, managers do tend to sometimes bring them in and then take them out of the firing line. But Jota, he's the man on form as well. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He got the winner against Sheffield United anyway, and really he has come into his own really in terms of recent weeks, and I'm very intrigued to see him against West Ham as well.
I mean, You've got Salah on 6 goals, Mane on 4, Jota on 2. Firmino is your top assister with 2, and then it's followed by Andrew Robson with 2, and then Trent obviously with 1. But you know, the last few seasons you've saw the two of them attack, and probably at this stage in that season had maybe a goal each and also a few assists more than what they've got. Is that a sign of, like you said, teams being able to get at Liverpool's defence a little bit more? And in particular, Jack, I know you mentioned the Aston Villa game, but I can't help but bring up the Aston Villa game because there was a couple of players in particular that always found themselves one-on-one with Adrian, and a lot of people kind of ripped into Adrian. We know Adrian really well, of course we do, but at the end of the day, the players got through and were left one-on-one. And on that day, Villa could have had a lot more than 7, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely, right. It was come off the back of, obviously, you couldn't have written it anymore. Obviously, off the back of Manchester United getting a good house spanking off Tottenham that day anyway. And then a couple of hours later, that happens. But yeah, it was, it's Adrian. I've absolutely loved him, obviously. Some people on Twitter go above and beyond stupidity, really, but some people shouldn't be allowed Twitter accounts. Some of the stuff he do say, but Adrian, he's been phenomenal since we spoke last season as well. He's been a breath of fresh air, probably one of the Liverpool's greatest ever second goalkeepers. He's not used to playing rounds at the back, and obviously we've had Alisson back in between the sticks. Aston Villa sensed that, and even if you're a fan of. If you just watch some games, especially obviously you watch Arsenal try and play around the back, and Leno, he's an absolute joke distribution-wise, and Adrian, he's not the best at his feet. Sometimes all of us, when we've been watching the game, just put your foot through it. Some keepers make it complicated in the mind when, if you want to play around the back, just do the basics, get it up the pitch and just stop the press from the opposition team.
I'm smiling because we love Adrian, but there was always a calamity waiting to happen. And when you're playing the short balls on the back, I'm sitting there thinking something's going to go wrong here. It's Adrian. As much as you love the guy, I don't think if we still had him in the, and I'd still love him to be second choice at West Ham, but if we had him here, I don't think we'd be playing the short ball out of defence with him. We'd just be saying to him, mate, just boot it as far as you can and worry about shot stopping when it happens.
I tell you what, though, the whole story behind him leaving the club, and to I think he was offered at one point 20 grand to go to a club in Spain a week, 20 grand a week. Yep. And then just out of the blue, Liverpool stepped up. And the rest is history. He's now got a Premier League.
He's got a Premier League medal.
He's got a
Champions League medal. I mean, it's like this. It's the best story you could hear. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And do you know what? He earned the right for those medals. He didn't not play. Sure. He played.
He played a big part, obviously, in the penalty shootout in the Copa final. Anyway, FIFA Club World Cup final. Anyway, it was phenomenal performance by him. Anyway, obviously, this is the beauty of Klopp. He brings in these players, and this is what you need. You need a good basis, a good camaraderie, really. Adrian, he's a big personality in the changing rooms. Obviously, if he doesn't play, he's very big in the changing room, and I think that's what Jurgen Klopp likes. Keepers have come to Liverpool in the past couple of seasons prior to Alisson coming in anyway, and you were out the door after a couple of bad results anyway. But he's a good lad. He doesn't mean bad on the team anyway. I think every player in the Premier League is susceptible really to really bad performances, but it's when you're a goalkeeper or you're centre back, they are the big key areas. If you make a mistake, it does lead to a goal anyway, and sadly, a couple of occasions, not all the time. I think obviously when Liverpool do make a mistake, it's always going to be high profile anyway. But he's been very good in between the sticks. And last season, he helped Liverpool win the league. Obviously, Alisson was missing massively at the beginning of last season, and he played a massive part. We were unbeaten when he was in between the sticks last season in the Premier League.
It's funny because, he left West Ham because he couldn't be guaranteed first-team football. And as Anton said, that's why he was on his way to Spain, because he was going to be guaranteed first-team football. But let's be honest, who's going to turn down a team like Liverpool when they come asking, will you be our second choice goalie?
Was he not doubling his wages as well?
And doubling his wages on top of that. So
yeah, he's probably got a nice little flat as well in Liverpool. But yeah, he's been absolutely class. And I think if you didn't have Fabianski between the sticks anyway, I think Adrian, he could definitely play in as there's a couple of Premier League teams that do need a decent goalkeeper anyway.
And he is a decent keeper. Yeah. He is a bit of a calamity, but we love him for that as well.
Yeah. What keeper isn't a calamity when you just pass him? It's the Guardiola style goalkeeper anyway. Just get it through.
Let me hit you with some stats. Let's do a little bit of a stat attack for the game coming up. Jurgen Klopp's side have won 28 of their past 29 top flight matches at Anfield, and if Liverpool avoid defeat tomorrow, they will equal the club record of 63 home league games unbeaten. The only club in the top 4 English divisions to have enjoyed a longer undefeated streak on home turf is Chelsea, which was 86 league matches between 2004 and 2008. Sadio Mane is set to make his 200th Premier League appearance, and again, like I've said, he's scored in his last 4 games against West Ham and has 5 goals and 3 assists in 6 Premier League matches. With regards to West Ham, we're unbeaten in 4 top flight matches, with all those games coming up against opponents who finished in the top 7 last season, and our only defeat in 6 Premier League away games was last month's 2-1 loss to Arsenal. Jack, when you look at West Ham as a Liverpool fan from out with, apart from the team, like what's your general view of West Ham, and also how would Liverpool set up against the likes of West Ham tomorrow?
In terms, well, obviously we'll talk about the board later, but as an outside fan, West Ham have always traditionally played football the right way. Obviously, David Moyes, you know what you're going to get with David Moyes, very solid defensive structure in terms of how he brings obviously Everton as well, and obviously Man United didn't go to plan. But yeah, I think in terms of how Liverpool would approach it, I think how we've always approached the last couple of seasons. Yeah, we mentioned that if West Ham and a lot of teams in the Premier League can get at Liverpool, but I think we just continue doing what we've been doing. Leave it up to the forward lads, try and get their goals anyway, contain possession anyway, and just keep on doing what we've been doing. But it's going to be a very difficult game. There's no easy game, like we were saying last season, mate. No easy season. Even though we had our points lead anyway, we just continue just ticking off the boxes anyway, fixture by fixture. You focus on one game at a time. I know as fans, it's not nice to hear that, but you've got to do that. I know it's pardon the pun, but it is like classic manager saying, but you can't disrespect the rest of the Premier League. It's the best league in the world, and it's the best footy in the world anyway. But I think just get at top at West Ham anyway, mate. It'd be a very tricky game. I'm really excited to see it because 2 different contrasting styles of football. But West Ham, you can play your football when you're on top of your song anyway. Yeah. Was it when your big massive comeback? Was it Tottenham?
Yes.
I absolutely love that game. I was sat there going, it was nice bit of footy anyway, and it was lovely to see Jose Mourinho crying after the game.
A quick question, Jack. You just mentioned, the Premier League is the best league in the world, and yet a couple of weeks ago we had this whole big project picture, whatever it's called, that was presented by Liverpool and endorsed by Man United. As a fan, would you want to see Liverpool leave the Premier League and join a European Super League or whatever you want to call it?
Definitely not, mate. It's being constructed by the owners, classic owners, obviously American owners, both sets of Liverpool and obviously Manchester United, the Glazers and FSG Sports Group anyway. But definitely not, mate. I want us to stay as the structure in which we've got. I know it means more money, more general for Manchester United than Liverpool. But if you ask any Liverpool fan, no. It just takes away from the beauty of the Champions League and the beauty of what was established in the football anyway.
Good point.
Yeah, like it's all this talk. Like it seems to be the norm now. All general directors of football clubs and they're all hungry for money. Money. Us as fans, we just want to have a decent run football club, and you just want to see your football team just playing decent, lovely attacking football. Whatever brand of football you do play, you just want to be winning football games. And obviously, what the last couple of months have shown is obviously greed from the FA, greed from the European bodies, and greed from the Premier League as well. Don't get me started on the pay-per-view anyway. That's a disgrace. That's a whole hour's show in itself. But yeah, it's they need to be put into line, really, the Premier League. And it's really sad, obviously, the what's happened with COVID anyway. Obviously, when football does come back eventually, obviously, the safety is paramount of everyone around the UK and around the world. But it's important that when it does come back, it's done properly.
Yep.
And I think
Yep.
a lot of owners, I stress owners, they're just greedy people, putting it in nice terms.
100%.
And we noticed that talking about COVID and everything, that Liverpool, I think it was Everton, wasn't it, raised quite a bit of money for the food banks down there, and like Liverpool fans were encouraging fans not to pay for PPV, donate that money instead, and we're doing the same at West Ham, and hopefully that will take off. We're going to promote that for the Fulham game, which is the first PPV for us. Do you endorse that sort of thing? It's a good gesture from fans, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good cause, and food banks in the UK and anywhere in the world shouldn't really be a thing. It should be an established society where everyone can afford the basic standard of living and food, obviously. But people are paying, obviously, if you do pay Sky and BT and all that. Yes, the Premier League does generate a lot of money, but it's every season that goes by, it's becoming less likely. If you're a travelling fan that does go away from West Ham and obviously away from Anfield, and if you're in European competition as well, it's getting more and more expensive, and it's being absolutely tarnished. And I absolutely admired all the away fans that go up and down the breadth of the country and in Europe anyway, around the world. But yeah, they're putting everyone into a corner, really. They're like, right, Sky, and it's the Premier League that we're saying it. It's like you're putting all the fans in a corner and going, right, who's paying for that? If you are, then we don't begrudge anyone that is paying it, because it's watching your football team. But for me personally, I've been listening on the radio. I made a donation anyway, and a lot of fans up and down the country have made donations really to the food banks. I think I know, was it Leeds were the only team in the Premier League that denied, obviously, the PPV.
It was Leicester.
Leicester, yeah. Yeah, there was one team out of 19. That just shows where the governing bodies of these football clubs are at. Because it should be what it was last season. You're taking away, people are struggling to pay the rents, they're not in jobs and all that. But obviously, people's money is their own money, do whatever. But it's taken away from the beauty of what football is all about.
Absolutely.
It is for the fans, and it should always be that case. But year by year, we're getting more detached from the fans anyway. It's sad to see, but I think in the next couple of years, if they continue going in the way, obviously the owners of every Premier League club, and obviously how the FA run, how the FA is run, the Premier League is run as well, it's going to be going down. Obviously, it's nice to see all these big transfers, but there will be a breaking point in the future.
I agree.
When every other fan up and down the country does go, you know what, sod you, absolutely sod you.
Absolutely, very true.
100%. Jack, when it comes to the game tomorrow, who is the man you fear the most from West Ham? Obviously, we know, and myself and Stella are going to go on and talk about West Ham in a minute, and we know that Antonio doesn't make the game tomorrow. But who is the man that you've seen the most of and fear the most as a Liverpool fan? Souček, the big man. Souček, yeah. I remember going when we won 4-1 at Anfield. I think it was one of his debut appearances. I think it was a couple of games back anyway. And I absolutely love him as a player. He's in your face. He's not just a big lump. He's got the ball. He's got good feet. He's
skillful.
Yeah, he's skillful, and he's got the ability to play, which is great. And him as well, obviously, Halle, he needs to sort himself out anyway in terms of getting the ball in between the sticks anyway. But yeah, Jared Bowen, he's a very interesting player. He's got the capabilities of being a very good player in the Premier League. If he continues going, keeps his head down really, and listens to what David Moyes has got to say as well. Cresswell at the back, I rate him. He's a very good player. He plays for the shirt, and really he's no nonsense. If he sees
no nonsense scouser.
Yeah. We have a lot to say anyway, but yeah, he's a good player. I really do rate him as well. I'm just trying to get the line right as well, but Ben Rama, I watched a lot of him last season when the championship was on telly and that, and he can be a very big player. Obviously, Felipe Anderson left Hughes. It was a bit of a mad one. I didn't expect them. Did he go into Portugal anyway? Somewhere was it Benfica or is it Porto? Porto, yeah. But Ben Rama can be a massive player. Yeah. If you put that into the West Ham style of play, I think he'll be a very pivotal player for this season if he can settle in properly.
Yeah. And who's the player that West Ham fans should fear the most? The one player.
Mane. Mane. I love Mo, but Mane, he's got a bit of grit about him. But if you like in Europe last season, well, the year before when we did win the Champions League, you just watch him, and I never got to get the opportunity to watch John Barnes, but my dad used to say he was a phenomenal player. But this lad's Mane, as well as Mo, I love both of them. They're both good in different ways, but Mane. And Salah as well, but Mane, I absolutely love him. He's
do you know what, Jack? If we kind of talk about that a little bit later on, but he is probably the one I fear the most from Liverpool. I think he's an incredible player. He's just continued his form consistently throughout his whole career, from Southampton through to Liverpool. He just goes about his business. He goes about his business quiet, but not on the park. He's completely lively. He can get in behind the defence. He can create. He can score. He can penetrate ball passes. He can shoot from distance. And it just shows in what he's reaping the rewards by being at Liverpool and winning the trophies and scoring the goals he does. So absolutely.
And when he turns 32, we'll end up buying him at West Ham.
Do you know what though? The thing about Manny is he's not that sort of player at 32 that would even run out of his career. He needs to be about 40.
He needs to be about 42. Yeah.
Knowing Manny anyway. Yeah, but what's about Liverpool, and I think obviously what happens when you are getting coached by Jurgen Klopp and Guardiola and the big managers, Mane and Salah do a lot as amazing stuff up front. But Mane is a player, and Salah, it's especially playing the system that you do when you play against Liverpool, or the forward line, they continue to press. And I think a lot of teams need to do that as well. Like it's very easy to say, oh, we'll press. Something to like Leeds United, obviously Bielsa, the way in which he's got his philosophy. Mane and Salah do a lot of work defensively as well, or to cover obviously Trent and Robbo, not against Aston Villa, but or majority of the time anyway. But in terms of that's one aspect of their game that does really get missed, really, from obviously opposition fans.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Listen, it's been absolutely amazing having you on the show, but before you go, there's one thing we need to ask you, mate. It's that time of the evening where we ask you for your predictions for tomorrow night's game, mate.
I'm not going to go big. I'm just going to keep it sensible. Because
thanks for that.
The way in which Liverpool have been defensively as well, I'm hoping it's a very good game. I'm going to probably go 2-0 Liverpool, but probably I'll go 2-1. But obviously, if West Ham do get at Liverpool defensively, especially if Williams does play centre back, or if it is Henderson anyway, but I'm going to go with 2-1, mate. If you want me line up, I'd probably go with Alisson, Trent, Williams centre back with Gomez, obviously with Robinson, and then we'll probably play a 4-2-3-1 or possibly a 4-3-3, but one with a 4-2-3-1 with Hendo and Gini Wijnaldum, Mane, Bobby, Jota, and then Salah up top anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Wijnaldum's another player, he's capable of scoring on his day. And I think when you signed him from Newcastle, I didn't have the high expectations. And what he's done, that shows you what Klopp can do with a player, really, doesn't it?
He's an absolutely phenomenal player. And I'd be gutted. He still hasn't signed his contract. And I know there's been a lot of talk with him potentially going out to Barcelona. I tell you, he's been one of the reasons that Liverpool have won the Premier League, won the Champions League as well. He doesn't do a lot of fancy stuff, keeps it basic, but he does stuff that stats don't really pick up, if you get me. Him and Henderson have been absolutely workhorses in the midfield anyway. Obviously, he's not quite to the Kevin De Bruyne's, but it'd be very unfair to put them on the same bracket anyway, because Kevin De Bruyne's an absolutely phenomenal player, but Gini Wijnaldum, the way he retains the ball in terms of, especially if a team is like very high press up against you. He's a classic Dutch player, uses his backside to really shimmy in and around players, opposition midfielders anyway. But I'm hoping he does sign his contract, mate, because I tell you, I want him to finish his career at Liverpool because he's been an absolute breath of fresh air. He started the very first season, he got that late goal against Middlesbrough then anyway, and got Liverpool into Europe, and then the rest is history, really.
Yeah. Jack, mate, before you head, can you just let everyone know where to find you on YouTube, all the socials, etc., mate?
Yeah, just Jack Mac LFC. Everyone, thank you very much for the lads standing there and Son anyway for let me come on. Been an absolute pleasure, boys, as always, and just hopefully we do get a smashing game of footy at the weekend tomorrow. Hopefully there's no nightmare defending.
I think what we can guarantee is there's going to be goals anyway.
There'll be goals.
There'll be goals. But Jack, mate, listen, thank you very much. And I was going to wish you luck for tomorrow, but I really don't want to wish you luck for tomorrow. I'll wish you luck for the rest of the season. So only when you don't play West Ham.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And everyone at home as well, keep safe and well. Look after one another as well. And I'll see you very soon, mate. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, mate.
Take it easy. Thank you. Cheers. And still, I mean, like I said, it's I'm really enjoying bringing on the opposition fans.
It's good when you got fans who come on and they speak, they speak in a nice way, and it's not arrogant, because you could have brought a Liverpool fan on, he would have gone, it could have gone, we're the champions, we're going to thrash you, etc., etc. It's quite humble, and I like that as well, and I hope people that are watching enjoy that too. It's always good to hear what the opposition fans think of us as a team, and what they think our strong points are and all that sort of stuff. So I hope people that are watching really like that.
Yeah, and it really does help, I think, us, because we've got to do a lot of research when we do these previews, but why not hear it from the horse's mouth? Why not hear it from the people who know the club inside out, who know the form, who know what the weaknesses are, and give us fans that interesting information? That's why I'm really enjoying it. It's giving us really good insight. Still, let's go on to West Ham and the big news that is Antonio's going to be missing for tomorrow. I think we heard the news coming through a little while ago, but obviously West Ham were trying to keep it close to their chest, but it was the worst kept secret
kept secret. I mean, we talked about it last Monday night. But West Ham didn't want to say that he had a hamstring tear, and now that we know, Moyes has still been. It's really surprising, actually, because it kind of confused me that Moyes actually made the statement today, because what he could have done is he could have kept everyone guessing and say something like, he's going to have a late fitness test or something like that. But maybe Moyes was a little bit too honest by sharing it now. I know he's had a couple of tests. So they had one, I think it was on Monday, and they discovered it was, it looked bad. But I think they wanted to do it again and double check. And the second result sort of proved that, it's a tear, and it's about, I think we're guessing it's around 6 weeks. So I think other people are saying it's going to be between 4 and 8 weeks. So there you go. But it did surprise me. It surprised me that Moyes actually came out with it. I thought he would have wanted to leave Liverpool guessing, I think. But it is what it is. It
is a massive loss. I mean, I know me and you are going to talk about why we think we can maybe make things, hopefully things can be okay. I know we're going to probably discuss that, but you can't deny it's going to be a huge loss, because what he does for our West Ham side still, year in and year out, 11 goals in 15 Premier League appearances, to show you how far he's come with the sort of goal we can score against Manchester City last week. And now opposition teams are 9 times out of 10 fearing him the most, because defenders don't really know how to deal with him.
Because they know he's going to keep running and running and running, and he's like a bull in a china shop. And the thing that he's done for us, since he's been playing up front, is I didn't like it when Moyes first started playing him up there, because I think we've said it enough times. Moyes was playing him up front, but there was no one around him. And it was a really thankless task. And I think it was against the game. Was it against Man City just before we played Liverpool last season, where we were saying this is dreadful? I felt sorry for Antonio, because he'd get the ball and there'd be no one around him, and the poor guy had to sort of shield it and wait for players to catch up. What Moyes has done recently, probably since Project Restart, he's adapted that play. He hasn't adapted the formation so much, but what he's done is he's had players a lot closer to Antonio. So when Antonio does all the, gets the ball and, breaks through the defenses and stuff, he's got players around him that are going to contribute. And I think if you noticed, he's playing, he got the goal last weekend because he was playing centrally rather than running out wide to get the ball. And if you notice in a couple of other games, he'd get the ball and then he'd want to, it's all right, now I've got to cross it, but there's no one in the box.
Yeah.
And so Moyes has adapted the game. Ironically, because we keep talking about, having strikers who we don't adapt our game for. And yet what Moyes has done is he's got the best out of Antonio by adapting the game, adapting the team.
And adapting the team around supporting the striker.
Exactly.
Which brings us on nicely to our record signing, Seb Haller.
Exactly. And I'm reading the comments, and I've read, and I did my show last weekend about Haller and what do we do about him? What does Moyes do about him? You've done an update on him as well. I maintain what I said in last week's show. You don't become a shit player overnight. You just don't. And I know people are going, he's lazy, he's this, he's that, he's the other. You give him an opportunity and you give him support around him, and I bet you'll see a very different Sebastian Haller. Now, we don't know if he'll start tomorrow. Moyes can go several ways tomorrow up front.
He really can, and I think that. Sorry to interrupt you there, Still, but the players we're talking about, why we can be so different is, and we can potentially see changes, is we've got the likes of Jared Bowen who could step into that role moving forward. We've got Ben Rama. I'm not saying he's going to step into that role, but he may slot into the midfield trio. I mean, there's talks of potentially Yarmolenko potentially getting touted as going up top.
But you noticed last week, mate, when it surprised us all when Antonio came off in the game and Moyes didn't replace like for like. We looked lost for 10 minutes or so. How long did it take? 10, 15 minutes before Haller came on. So he had Yarmolenko came on, who does play up front, but he plays up front for the Ukraine in a 2 up front. He doesn't play alone. So he brought Yarmolenko on. That didn't work. He switched him over with Bowen. That didn't work until he finally relented and brought Haller on. Now, I know what people are going to say. People are going to say he didn't do anything. He didn't do much. He looked uninterested. He looked out of sorts. He looked blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm not making excuses for a player, but when you're the only striker in the squad, the only recognised striker in a 23-man squad, and the player that you've been playing has, been doing well, Antonio. But then when Antonio goes off, you kind of expect, Haller, get your tracksuit off, you're going on. Now, he must have been a bit bemused, and it did shoot to him during the game, and he just had a smile on his face, when he wasn't brought on straight away, as if to say, well, what do you want me to do? People are slagging him off and slating him, and I really hope that he does start tomorrow. I've got him in my team to start tomorrow, and I really hope he rips it up and shows what he's actually worth, what he's worth to West Ham.
I couldn't agree with you.
I don't know.
I couldn't agree with you more, Still. Our videos we've done a lot recently, we're talking about how we are closing that gap in the midfield to the striker, and that's exactly what Haller wants, is support. I've seen people talking about putting Bowen up top. I'm not saying I'm dead against. Well, do you know what? I am against it because I think he's been so effective out on the wing, and he can offer us a really strong threat from that position. And then, this game's an interesting one Still, because we've worked out a formation and we've worked out a starting lineup, and Antonio has been the kind of headline of that of the recent time with Moyes. By Antonio being missing makes me believe that not just one change will happen. The potential for 2 changes could happen. Could this be the time where Moyes shocks people and gives Ben Rama a start and tries to unleash this? Because you can't help but think, if you've got Ben Rama on the left, you've got Bowen on the right, you've got Haller up top, you're trying to reignite that service to the striker and get the best out of get the best out of Haller. What do you really think?
No, I don't think he's going to make that many changes, mate. I really don't. I think he's going to try and stick as much as what he can. And I think what's in his mind at the moment is, who's the best person to replace Antonio. Yeah, I think he's already decided on
go for like then, really.
Yeah. I think he's already decided on the other 10 players that are going to be picked, because let's face it, they haven't done much wrong. They've done really well.
Right, yeah.
So he's not going to go out and go, well, I'm going to change the defense now, or I'm going to take Masuaku off and put someone else in, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. His decision tomorrow is, who do I replace Antonio with? And you can guarantee, I lay a bet on it, that the other 10 players that started last week's game will be the 10 starting this week. Yep. It's only what he does up front, and he's got options. I've heard people talk about, Dan in our WhatsApp chat said, oh, maybe he should play Lanzini, but if he does that, then it's a bit of a false number 9 approach. He could play Benrahma, he could play Yarmolenko, he could play Bowen, and Bowen as in he'll play Yarmolenko out wide or whatever, so he's got 4 options plus Haller. He's got 5 options as to what he's going to do in that striker role.
Before we kind of go into depth a little bit quickly about our starting 11, get your comments in regarding your starting 11. Who would you like to see start tomorrow against Liverpool? Still, surely if Haller doesn't start tomorrow, that Antonio's out, what does that say to a player like Haller?
It says that Moyes doesn't want him there. It's as simple as that. This is why, you put 2 and 2 together and sometimes you come up with the right answer. This is why he was pushing for Josh King rather than Benrahma. We know that. It's a fact. And I know we had to be coy about it when we were doing all the transfer shows, etc. But it's an absolute fact that he wanted Joshua King over Benrahma, and Sullivan wanted Benrahma. Yeah. I think we made the right choice, personally. I think Benrahma is a player for the future. I think Benrahma has got a lot of saleable value, because that's one thing that we've been accused of in the past. We now have, with Benrahma in the team, I know we've still got to make it permanent, but with Benrahma, Bowen and Souček, we've got 3 players there that are in their early to mid-20s who, if they stay with us for a couple of seasons, we could still sell them on for a decent price and start investing more in the squad. You've got to invest in the right players in order to get something out of them. They're still young enough, sell them on for a higher price and keep churning it around like that. So for me, it was the right choice. But I also get why people wanted Josh King, because people say Josh King is a harder worker. He'd be a harder worker than Haller, etc., etc. But you got to realise Josh King's 29 years old in January, and his sell-on price would have been next to nothing. So we would have ended up paying 15, 16 million pounds for Josh King, who, by the way, we probably can get for about 7 or 8 million pounds in January. So, for once, the club have done the right thing. There's still plenty of time, and there'll still be plenty of the season left. If Haller doesn't work out whilst Antonio is out injured, there's still enough games to be able to go, right, let's get Josh King in, and then Haller will go.
It's
now
funny.
We won't go on, mate. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, no. I'm just saying it's funny when you look at the comments, even on the channel just now. People are kind of going up, like, it's so different when it comes to Haller. People are saying if he doesn't perform tomorrow, it means he's lazy. He should be chucked out. And then other people are saying you need to feed a player with his strength. We've got 2 players. You've got Antonio, who is a makeshift striker, who's performing really well, who's completely different to Sebastian Haller. And Sebastian Haller has never shown any sign of doing the same huge amount of work rate that Antonio does. That doesn't mean he's not a good player. He can still offer something because he's got a history of doing it. He is top level. People all over Europe were wanting him when West Ham signed him. And like you said, still, he doesn't turn to be a crap player overnight. But I think there's a comment here. Let me just fire this one up. There's a player in... Sorry,
mate. My fault.
That's fine. There's a player in Haller. Feed him and you'll get...
exactly
the best out of him. Simple. Got to get players close to him, and we're not playing Haller right. And I do agree with that.
Ken said that in the show last week, and I absolutely 100% agree with him. As I've said, people may not realise this, but Moyes has adapted West Ham's game to suit Antonio, and it's worked brilliantly. Yeah, absolutely brilliantly. What he's now got to do, he's got to show a little bit of faith in Haller. He's got no choice. He's our only striker unless Moyes dips into the under-23s. So basically what Moyes has got to do is got to turn around and say, right, You're a completely different type of player to Antonio. This is how we're going to line up, set up for you to benefit from. That's a sign of a good manager. That's a sign of a manager that will have a plan B. We've been asking what happens if our plan A goes wrong. Well, our plan A now could go wrong because our plan A was Antonio.
Yeah.
So he's got no choice but to now adopt a plan B. And a plan B has got to be, how do I get the best out of Allaire? Forget his value. Forget the fact that we bought him for 45 million. It's the fact that he's the only striker in the squad. So he needs to find a way to accommodate Allaire.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I 100% agree with that still. I think there's an element of I think there was a comment there. I think Haller needs a month to settle in. Not even a month to settle in, but he needs a month of game time. Like, so, if you're a player like Haller, what I don't want to see is him start tomorrow. It doesn't work out for him, and then he's dropped in the next game. Because what the reason why West Ham are performing really well is because we've got consistency in team selection still, and Moyes didn't chuck players out of the squad in the first couple of games of the season when we got beat twice against Newcastle at the start of the season. So we've got to give players an opportunity now. I'm going to bring up the Aston Villa game against Liverpool because if you watch that game, and anyone who watched that game, Liverpool couldn't cope with the style of players like Ross Barkley and Grealish. They just couldn't cope with their ability, their penetration, and they constantly carved through that Liverpool defence. That Liverpool defence was at full strength except for Alisson in goal, and it wasn't Adrian's fault. And I know Jack came on and said there was 3 deflected goals, but there were still goals that they scored in the game and got 7 goals against the Premier League champions. So
you could argue that Liverpool were unlucky. There are a lot of deflected goals in one game. You'd be lucky if there's one deflection, but they had 3. But you're absolutely right. What QPR, Villa did was they went, we've got nothing to lose. We're going for it. We've got nothing to lose. If we get spanked, we get spanked.
And that's why I'm starting to think that, what kind of manager looks at that. Liverpool have conceded a lot of goals this season. They've conceded 14 or 15 goals this season already. They actually hold the record for the most goals conceded, and they're the team that's challenging for the Premier League. So their defence is struggling. They desperately need a clean sheet under their belt. West Ham have been, we've only conceded 4 goals in our last 4 games, but we've scored 11 still. So
mate, tomorrow is the prime time to play Liverpool in my eyes. It really is. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit too over optimistic because of the results that we've had. But who would have given us a cats in hell's chance against Wolves, Leicester, Spurs? We played really. The only shit game we played this season was Newcastle.
Yeah,
we deserved to get beat. We deserved something out of Arsenal. We deserved every point. We actually did probably, I think some people were saying if we had another 5 more minutes against Spurs, we would have beaten them.
Probably would have.
That sort of stuff, because, and we got to start having faith. Now, I even read, and I laughed at this article, it ain't pretty to watch, but it's effective. Hang on a minute. We're scoring loads of goals. We're not conceding many. Okay, we're playing on the counter attack, but hey, I don't mind that. Yeah. The only thing is we absorb a lot of pressure, and we don't have a lot of the ball. But in the past, a West Ham team that doesn't have a lot of the ball would have just folded, would have lost against Man City 4-0, would lose against Liverpool tomorrow 5-0. I don't see that. I think we'll get something, even if it's another draw. I think we'll get something out of tomorrow. I really do. I think it's the prime time for us.
And this is the reason why I'm even bringing up again why other managers around the world will look at this game and go, do you know what? We have been performing really well, but we've lost our main guy. We're going to try a new system, and we need to put players on the park that are going to cause or get bums off seats or attempt things. And that's the only reason why, if Benrahma doesn't start, I do think we will see him tomorrow come off the bench at some point. But if he doesn't, I'm just putting a little bold one out there, that there may be a surprise inclusion. I mean,
I said this when we signed him. He could be the next winger turned into a striker.
Yeah.
After after I've forgotten the man's name. Who was the first one? Arnautovic, and now Antonio. And it could be that I can see it happening. I can see. I don't think it will happen tomorrow, but I can see moving forward that that Benrahma could be the next winger turned striker, because he also plays as a number 10 as well. You know, and people don't. Well, I'm sure they know that, but he can play just behind the striker. So.
Well, she's here. Hala should be given a target man role, not a pressing forward like Antonio. Two completely different players. It's like asking Noble to do what Rice does in midfield.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. And you play to that player's strengths. You know, you say, and you talk to the team around you and you go, right, we haven't got Antonio, we got Allaire. We're changing our play. All Allaire needs are people to be closer to him, you know, so that he can get the ball and feed it off, get it back or whatever. You don't also, I mean, the other stat with Allaire is it's not just the goals he's scored, but it's the assists he's made as well. So he is a team player. Yeah. You know, you don't get as many goals and assists by a player if you're not a team player, but you've got to play to that player's strengths. So Fo was absolutely right there.
Let's have a look at the last kind of run-in of games against Liverpool. This is going back. Let me just remove that banner there. This is going back from obviously our last game back in February 2020, going back to 2012. It doesn't read pretty. There's a little kind of nice little green section there for West Ham fans.
Yeah.
Last season at Upton Park, and obviously the FA Cup victory, thanks to the goal from Ogbonna.
Yeah.
But you know, as you can see,
that night. Yeah, I remember that.
As you can see, still, I mean, it's not recent. It's not good.
There's a lot of red there, isn't there?
Yeah, and recently it's not obviously been reading that well, but what we did see against Liverpool last season in that game that we got beat 3-2 was fight, was a little bit of that was the game that probably changed things for West Ham. That was the game that I felt like Nolan made the impact that he was brought in to do, and West Ham started to fight, because like you said still earlier on, the Man City game was the one that really was where West Ham fans were starting to just give up and think,
yeah, you know, the Man City game before lockdown was abysmal to watch.
Yeah,
and it was like, good grief, if this is all we're going to be doing, we're going to get relegated at that time. And then we saw that fight against Liverpool when we lost 2-1. What was it? Was it Fornals that scored our goal that night? I can't remember. I remember we were talking about it afterwards and like, was that the same team? You know, we played brilliantly and we were gutted that we didn't get anything out of the game against Liverpool.
One of our first kind of new match day live watch along videos we decided to do, because I remember Souček came off injured after 60 minutes.
That's right.
And that was his first real game of showing us what he was capable of. He was unbelievable in that game, and then he came off injured, and that really kind of knocked us and that's probably what led to us unfortunately conceding the goals. Before we move on, still, everyone get your predictions in. Let us know your thoughts on what the score will be tomorrow night. The more I hear that.
Before we go on to that, did you tell me what you think your lineup's going to be?
I'm all over the shop. I'm back to maybe, I'm trying to think, prior to pre-lockdown, when each game we came up against, we came up against an opposition and we had a different team pretty much start. We could guarantee that it would be 2 or 3 changes. I'm indifferent. I don't know where I'm at tomorrow still, because I think that a like for like swap. My only fear is that even though Fornals has been playing really well, he's been playing really well with a player who works hard with him in Antonio. And that's my only fear tomorrow, is that I don't know if it's the hard work of Fornals that can win us the game tomorrow against Liverpool, who struggle against players who can create.
Yeah.
And when I can't help but keep thinking of the Aston Villa game, and the 2 players that caused them problems the most were Jack Grealish and Ross Barkley, 2 players that can create and score, and they just constantly, it was like the pressure was off their shoulders, and they just performed to the highest level, and that's what's kick-started their season. They've gone on from that game and performed really well. So I'm in two minds. I think Moyes will probably just do the one-off swap.
Yeah.
Of Haller for Antonio. Concerns me though slightly because I don't think it's enough.
Well, only if he adapts the game to suit Haller. Otherwise, there'll be no point.
Absolutely. Yeah. But
yeah.
I really don't know. I really don't know.
Well, there's been some comments about Noble and people talking about, do you think Noble will start? I actually don't think he will. And I think the only time that Noble might come on tomorrow is if we're actually winning and we're holding on to a result.
Yeah.
So I don't think Noble will play. I'm with you. I think it will just be one change, but who that will be, like I said, for me it should be Haller, but who that will be, I don't know. Yeah. And I get what you're saying. I get about the creativity, but I think Moyes will gauge it. I think Benrahma will probably get some game time tomorrow, but I hope he doesn't swap like for like. I hope he doesn't bring off Bowen for Benrahma.
Yeah, that's my concern. Like you said, we were talking about it when we've done the last video. I think I don't want to even remotely. It's not about Slate. I think what's his name, Masuaku's been performing really well as of late, but that's probably again the position we could see happening, and we'd want to see Haller, if he is starting tomorrow, stay on the park for the full game. Bowen stay in the park for the full game. If we're in for a chance of winning, it's different. If we're up and leading 3-0, obviously it won't happen. But we'll see. Still, get your comment. I mean, we'll go through the comments and let everyone know their predictions. But what do you think your prediction will be for tomorrow?
Mate, I'm going for a win. I'm going for a 2-1. I think we'll win. I've got that feeling that, and I know people are going to say we stand no chance because Antonio ain't playing, but I'm going to go for a 2-1, and I hope I'm proved right.
I like that sense of confidence. Do you know what I'm going to do, Still? I'm going to surprise everyone again and go crazy. You ready for this one? I think it's going to
4-0. West Ham.
3-1 West Ham.
God, you.
3-1 West Ham. Listen, I've got to make it a little bit more enjoyable than just a basic scoreline. But no, I'll be honest with you. I do think we're capable of going there and winning the game. I do think we're capable of going there and scoring 3 goals. I do think we're capable of going there and conceding 3 goals, but there is an opportunity for West Ham to work that defence. And if we can go into that game pressing Liverpool, then what that's going to do still is that's going to bring their forward line back. And they, even though they're really, really good on the counter-attack, those 3 players up top don't need to have the work rate to track back because they've got usually the players there that are capable of doing it. And if West Ham can try and nullify that threat, and I'm sorry, I'm going to keep bringing it up, but Aston Villa knew the game plan against, and I know the season's a bit freaky.
The difference is, mate, is that Moyes isn't that type of manager. That's the thing.
But he is a manager that's pressing. We're pressing these teams. And I think Kent wrote in there about Thomas Souček. Like, if Thomas Souček hadn't got injured against Liverpool last season, we probably would have stood a chance of getting at least a point or even the 3 points. So he's the big moral. Like.
The thing in Moyes' head is always damage limitation. It's always damage limitation. So he's got all these flair players. You could argue tomorrow he should, if we want to go for it, you should argue he could play Bowen, Haller, Benrahma, Lanzini and Fornals, all of them, play and really go for it and just have poor Declan and Souček trying to protect the back line. But he won't do it. He won't do it. That's the unfortunate thing. Whereas I don't know who manages Villa, I can't remember, but they just went, we're going for it and that's that. But Moyes ain't like that. That's the problem,
Yep, absolutely. Still, so that brings to an end our preview. I mean, it's the longest one I've done for a while, but of course we know why. Still's on the show. That's why.
Mate, I'm trying to get people's comments in as well. You gotta respect the comments.
we do respect them. Yeah, we do. No, I know we've done it. We hopefully Dean Smith is the manager at Villa. Thanks to that, Foshizi.
Right. Thank you.
So what have we got coming up? We have a match day live tomorrow, Liverpool. So make sure you join us. I know Matt's going to be there. I'm going to be there. I don't know what you're doing, Still. I think you're going to be kicking about.
I'll be around. Yeah, so it's no problem for me. I've got. I'm around.
So make sure you join us tomorrow for our matchday live. Straight after that, we'll have a highlights in words video discussing the game, and then that takes you nicely into Sunday evening for Stiles West Ham Weekly. And in the next coming weeks, hopefully we'll be launching a new show. I'll keep that under wraps and let you know about that in the coming weeks. Please make sure you go across to iFoodbanks. They're on Twitter. They are the food banks, Irons Food Banks, which is obviously helping the people in Newham, the local area around in and around East London, who desperately need the support. So please go in and make a donation. There's going to be some interesting stuff coming up between all the West Ham channels soon. So we hope you can enjoy that. And then lastly, we'll have another bit of exciting news hopefully coming up still. I know me and you were talking about it the other day, so hopefully we'll be able to announce that over the next couple of days. And
very interesting. It's like the hard work is paying off, and we'll let everybody know. But I tell you what we'll do. We'll ask people's opinions when we're ready for it. We'll ask people what they think about it. Because
you know what? Let's leave it with this without going too far in depth into what we're going to say, because it would need to be done by potentially tomorrow still.
Is it? You were going to phone me back and you didn't bother.
I know, I was too busy. Sorry. To cut a long story short, we've been approached by someone who wants to sponsor us for the channel and sponsor some of the shows. But what that means is we will probably have to talk about them for probably up to a minute at the start of the video and have a little overlay.
Minute.
What?
No, I'm joking. I'm saying a minute is a long time to talk about.
I don't think it has to be a minute. I just use that as a number. It could be 30 seconds.
I'm joking. Go on.
So
but the good thing, people, is it's not a betting company. We're not promoting anything like that. It won't be promoting anything like alcohol betting.
I'm not so against the betting side of things, but it's.
I
know, but I'm not. I'm glad it's not a betting company, if I'm making any sense. So it's a really well-known company actually, and so people are already saying that sponsorship's all right. They're fine with that.
So long as it doesn't take over the show, then that's the important thing. That's what Anton and I are talking about. I mean, we're chuffed, and that means that that the channel is getting a bit of notice, which is nice.
And you guys didn't go looking for it either.
Say again, mate.
No, we didn't go looking for it.
We didn't go looking for it. Yeah, do it here, Trudge. Do it in a 1940s American TV ad style. I like that idea, actually. I'll probably play a bit of jazz in the background. How about that?
Well, I seen you jumping away, dancing away to the intro music that I had on today. I think you like that. I think you're in there. I think I've sold it to you.
I don't know about that. We've given the game away. Long Dark has sussed it out. It's Red Bull. Red Bull Irons United.
or it's Reebok. So yeah, it says here YouTube will promote you more with a sponsorship deal. I mean, to be fair,
I didn't know that.
Well, to be fair, like if we fire the adverts onto the channel, the adverts pop on to the shows every single day anyway, every single video. So so we just wanted to keep you up to date with all that sort of stuff. But anyway, still we're harping on again.
And why not?
Come on, mate, for tomorrow.
Yeah, I've got plenty for tomorrow. I've got plenty for Sunday as well. But there you go. Let's shut up then. Let me shut up because it's late and people want to go to bed. So yeah,
including me.
And I've still got to write my show for Sunday. I ain't done that yet. So.
Thanks for joining us. Of course, make sure you tune in. Ken, you're saying you're tuning into Stiles' Sunday show. Are you going to tune into us?
There's only one show worth watching on this channel.
I want everyone to go on a Sunday. Go on a Sunday, but watch other shows as well and let us know your feedback on that.
Absolutely.
And anyway,
Long Dark. Don't forget your Red Bulls. It's going to be a long one tomorrow, mate. I'll tell you that. Red Bull Matsuar.
Fingers crossed we get something tomorrow. Let's go for the 3 points, and fingers crossed we can continue that little bit of form and Haller brace, like you said, Still. Anyway, he's been Still. I've been Anton. This is West Ham Irons United. Subscribe, like, and comment, and come on, you Irons.